Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. And you can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can hear this broadcast on our audio streaming through PBS Evox receiver app. Also on our shortwave broadcast through shortwave frequencies. That's 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, and 17.665 megahertz. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Let's begin Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
All right, the House of Representatives is scheduled to approve this week the measure granting President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. the authority to temporarily cut or suspend excise taxes on petroleum products. The House Bill number 8418, certified as urgent by the President, is subject to strict conditions and time limits, so relief can be activated without waiting months for a new law in the middle of a crisis. And we hope our lawmakers will improve or to approve this particular House bill. And Majority Leader or House Majority Leader Ferdinand Sandro Marcos of Ilocos Norte said House Bill 8418 was crafted precisely for moments when an overseas crisis quickly turns into a local burden at the pump, in public transport, as well as in the market and on the dinner table. And in a statement Sunday evening, Representative Marcos said the House is moving to address an oil price crisis, and this bill gives the President a lawful and time-bound way to cut or suspend fuel excise taxes so relief can reach the public before higher oil prices trigger a wider increase in fares, food, and other basic expenses. And Representative Marcos, as well as the House Speaker Boji D. III, pushed the measure as part of the House effort to keep the government prepared for price spikes tied to international events, including the conflict-driven disruptions in global oil supply that can ripple into higher costs of basic commodities. And the House leader said the proposal is meant to ease a tax burden, as it should be, that has become heavier as global oil prices move upward. And he added that the proposal offers real relief, especially for workers, drivers, small businesses, and families who feel the impact of every peso added to the cost of the fuel. And under that existing law, the excise tax, particularly excise taxes, form part of the retail price of petroleum products, which means every increase in fuel costs spills into transportation, delivery, electricity generation, and the prices of goods sold in markets and stores, making the issue far bigger than what motorists pay at gasoline stations. So this oil price increase is affecting most, if not all, most of the sectors. And the House Bill 8418 authorizes the President, upon recommendation of the Development Budget Coordination Committee of the Department of Budget and Management, and in coordination with the Secretary of Energy, to suspend or reduce the excise tax on fuel under specific conditions designed to allow speed while preserving safeguards and oversights. And one trigger under that bill is when the average Dubai crude oil price, based on the mean of Platts Singapore, reaches or exceeds $80 per barrel for 1 month immediately before the issuance of the suspension or reduction order, a threshold meant to capture a prolonged price pressure rather than short-lived market swings. And another trigger applies when the president, still under that House bill, when the president has declared a state of national emergency or calamity. And that condition results in extraordinary increases in domestic pump prices of petroleum products as certified by Secretary of Energy, allowing the authority to be used when local price conditions become severe enough to require direct intervention. And the measure provides that the suspension or reduction may apply to specific petroleum products only, and that it may be implemented either as a full suspension or as a partial reduction of the excise tax depending on prevailing conditions and the kind of relief needed. So all of those measures are included in that particular bill. And in the same bill, since we are talking about it, to prevent abuse and to keep the authority narrowly tailored, the bill states that any suspension or reduction may be effective for not more than 6 months unless extended or terminated earlier by Congress through a joint resolution. And that bill, sponsored by House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, explains that total aggregate period of suspension or reduction may not exceed 1 calendar year. And the bill further requires that any suspension or reduction be lifted once the conditions that justified it no longer exist, with the applicable excise tax rates automatically reinstated upon expiration without need of further executive or legislative action. So meaning to say, the House bill is only is a direct address to the Middle East crisis that is affecting already or already hurting the Philippine economy. And that's the answer, which is the House Bill 8418, or the removal of the temporary removal of excise tax, so that it will address the oil price hikes that is currently happening right now. And to keep the delegation time bound, the president's authority under the measure may be exercised only until December 31, 2028. So that address the long-term effect of the Middle East crisis. So again, to keep the delegation time bound, the president's authority under the measure may be exercised only until the year end of 2028. And as an added check, the bill directs the president through the Secretary of Finance to submit the House and Senate a report within 15 days rather from issuance of the order, and every month thereafter, and detailing the factual basis for the action, the estimated foregone revenues, and the expected impact on inflation, fuel prices, and other economic activity. And the Department of Finance, as well as the Budget Department and the Department of Economy, Planning and Development, as well as the Energy Department and the Central Bank of the Philippines, which is Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, in coordination with the Bureau of Internal Revenue and Bureau of Customs, are directed to issue or jointly issue the implementing rules and regulations within 15 days from the law's effectivity. So that's that's the mechanics of the House Bill 8418 that is being sponsored by none other than the presidential son, House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos, with full support of the Speaker of the House, Representative Boji D. III. And since we're talking about the oil price hikes that is currently happening here in the country, because some oil companies and distributors as well are implementing the oil price hike, and we receive reports that there are or some distributors or oil gas stations implementing oil price hikes that are higher than usual. And in regards and in spirit of that, the Philippine National Police or PNP is monitoring the gasoline stations that stop operations amid suspicions of illegal schemes. So now our police is moving now and acting now to monitor those gas stations who are seemingly closing their stores, but there's with the allegations of those distributors hiding oil supply. And the Department of Energy asked the PNP to assist in running after gas stations that may take advantage of the situation in the Middle East. So that's why we are talking about those gas stations that are taking advantage of the situation to further increase their oil gas prices, so that they can have more profits. And some netizens reported the announced or unannounced closure of some gas stations and asked the local or the national government rather to look into the possibility of hoarding and price manipulation. And PNP chief through Police General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. said the PNP or the National Police is fully understands the situation that gas stations owners face amid the challenges brought by the situation there in the Middle East. But if the sudden closure is for an illegal scheme, then expect police action on that matter. So that's how the Police General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. warns those oil and gas distributors. And he instructed the Chief of Police to coordinate with the local government units and the Energy Department to determine the circumstances leading to the sudden closure of some gas stations. And Police General Nartates Jr. said the PNP has doubled its effort in response to the concerns raised by the public, particularly the motorists, in line with the President Marcos Jr.'s directive to prevent hoarding and profiteering amid the ongoing global oil crisis. And he added that help desks are now available across the country to make it easier for the public to report concerns regarding fuel stations. And regarding that particular topic with the oil price hikes or increase here in the Philippines, so it's currently affecting now or soon, or maybe now or sooner, the prices of goods, transportation, and even services. It may be affected. So how is this affecting the Philippine economy in general? So we will have one of the leading economists here in the Philippines. We will have them here in the program live. But in the meantime, before we have our guest for today, which is the economist, let's go straight here in the developments, particularly in the repatriation efforts of the government. Because a total of 342 Filipinos safely returned to the Philippines on Sunday morning, March 15, through the government's second chartered repatriation flight from the Middle East. And the flight, which is operated by the Philippine Airlines, landed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Department of Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak and also Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Head or Administrator Patricia Yvonne Kaunan, as well as the Department of Health Under Secretary Gloria Balboa, and representatives from other government agencies welcomed those returnees or repatriated Filipinos. And those returnees, 328 of them, overseas Filipino workers, or some of them, or majority of them, were provided with assistance, including temporary hotel accommodations, medical checkups, food, and transportation to their respective provinces. And they will receive financial assistance from the government. And the flight is the second charter operation conducted as part of the government's action plan to accelerate assistance and evacuations effort for Filipinos affected by ongoing tensions in the Middle East. And those repatriates came from Al Khobar, Dammam, and Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, as well as in Bahrain, and traveled by land across borders before boarding the charter flights bound for Manila. And the government has been coordinating, the Philippine government rather, has been coordinating with host countries and international partners to assist Filipinos seeking repatriation as tensions in the region continue to affect overseas workers. So those are the development, or some of the developments regarding the repatriation efforts of the government. And we expect the Philippine we are expecting that more overseas Filipino workers will be repatriated soon, as the tension in the Middle East is still ongoing, and it's still we are now heading into day 16 or day 17 rather of the Middle East conflict, and the battle is seem endless. So we expect more Filipinos to be repatriated from the Middle East and will be repatriated here in the Philippines. So we are expecting more Filipinos or overseas Filipinos, or and particularly overseas Filipino workers will be repatriated here in the country. Okay, so we will have the economists here in the program to discuss more about the oil price hikes and the Middle East crisis here that is affecting the Philippine economy. So we will have an economist here in the program. But first, some messages from our station. We'll be right back. Front and Center returns.
Makiisa sa makukulay na pagtatanghal at parada. Hatid ang saya para sa bawat pamilya. Selebrasyon ng kultura, sining at pagkakaisa. Matutunghayan dito sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Samahan niyo kami sa pagdiriwang ng Anilag Festival. Anilag Festival Level Up 2026. Hatid ng Radyo Pilipinas, Radyo Publiko.
Maging fuel efficient. Planuhin ang bawat biyahe para iwas traffic. Mag-carpool para sa mababang carbon footprint at emission. Tipid na pamasahe, may savings ka na aabot sa 10%.
This is a public service announcement from the Department of Energy and this station.
Maging fuel efficient. Panatilihin ang takbo ng sasakyan sa speed limit o 60 to 80 kilometers per hour at gamitin ang cruise control sa mga highways. May savings ka na aabot sa 15%.
This is a public service announcement from the Department of Energy and this station.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Still with me, Jerome Toledo, and you just heard the message that we just brought to you regarding the energy saving tips. Anyway, so moving to our discussion for today, since we are talking about the oil price hikes and also the continuing situation in the Middle East regarding and how is this affecting the Philippine economy. So right now, joining me again in the program is the Chief Economist of the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, Mr. Michael Ricafort. Thank you so much again, Mr. Michael Ricafort, for joining us in the program Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Glad to have you back.
Good morning, Mr. Jerome, and your viewers. Nice to be back.
All right, thank you so much again. So, right now we're here. We are entering day 16 of the Middle East conflict, and the oil price hikes continues to take place here in the country, but also globally. But I understand the oil prices in the global market continues to increase. But do you see the oil price in the global market to spike up to $200 per barrel? And why is this important to take note of this, Sir Mike?
Well, now, it has stabilized at 98 levels since Friday. Before we close our last Friday here in the Philippines, it was around $95. So, well, I think it's too speculative to really say if the prices would spike up. But now, last Monday, a week ago, the high was 119, but it was very volatile back then, almost $120. But now, it has gone down since then. It even went down to 80 levels around middle of last week, only to bounce back again to 90s level near 100. So I think it's kind of far-fetched to, well, for time and again, we have been experiencing these kinds of similar situations. Even a few years back, especially 4 years ago, the start of the Russia-Ukraine war.
That's right.
There were already speculations such as those, but it's not happening because the peak in the Russia-Ukraine war was only $130 per barrel. That was March of 2022. So that was 2 weeks into the Russia-Ukraine war. Then it fell to below 100 thereafter. So it's only a
Okay.
short period of time. Now it's of course it's demand supply. What's different now is the supply of oil in the Strait of Hormuz. Even if, say, Iran signaled that they would only target U.S. and Israeli-related ships, but the rest would be allowed. But the thing is, it's too dangerous, even for well, it came to an almost a complete stop. All the shipping of oil, LNG, and energy from the Middle East because it's well because it's very dangerous. Some shipping companies don't even well
Okay.
they cannot commit to deliver in those areas nearby, where there's trouble.
Well,
And of course, insurers, they don't like to cover because of the danger. It's uh, higher likelihood of there would be a claim, so they would lose money, the insurer, so they don't insure. And some of the crew, they even refuse. In fact, unfortunately, there's one Filipino was missing.
okay.
uh
Well,
so it's dangerous. So that's the only difference now, Mr.
well,
Jerome, the supply. Everybody's waiting for that.
but we established that this $200 per barrel is a speculative one, meaning to say the oil price in the global market will only reach some sort of $100 per barrel, or it would not go higher.
Well, so far that has been, if you base it on the consistent performance, it's only around these levels. So far. But we're not, of course, that's why it's speculation because we don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
know. But so far the markets are, yeah, they're coming into terms in these levels. And well, we have to acknowledge also that there's softness in well, not well, in the global economy, particularly in China for the past 2 to 3 years, because China is the biggest importer of oil.
Right.
And well, and there's some global economic slowdown because of other factors like the trade wars, the higher tariffs, protectionist measures by Trump, and and of course the net effect of the net rate hikes for the past 4 years. Although interest rates have been reduced by more than 225 basis points here locally,
Right.
and in the US already reduced by 175 basis points since September 2024 for the past 1.5 years. But the thing is, it's still a net increase from 22 levels. But now, they increased partly because of the spike in oil. And now it's back again. So the key question now, would they hike rates? But well, the global economy is still slow. No, however, it's not that different 4 years ago because we came from the pandemic. Economies were slow back then. So
Okay.
they're on
Right.
inflation fighting mode. They would try to stabilize inflation, and
Yes.
the central banks, they would fulfill their mandate of price stability. So they would do everything. They would step on the brakes for the global economy to slow things down, enable for world oil prices and other
So yeah.
commodities to slow down, and also inflation to be under control.
So that's the role of our central banks to stabilize the inflation rates as well as our currency value. But with the Middle East crisis affecting the oil supply plus the global tariff trade imposed by the United States, that's a different story. But now it's now becoming a part of a picture of the global economy, and also the Russia-Ukraine war is it's not yet ending anytime soon. So with those factors or events happening across the world, do you see the world economy or global economy heading into a recession because of these events?
It's a risk, actually. It's stagflation, no? As they call
Yeah.
it. It's a combination of higher inflation and slower world economies because economies have been slower in the first place before the war, before this latest war for more than 2 weeks already, because of the effects of the trade war and of course, the higher tariffs, the slower. That would lead to slower global trade, global investments, and overall world GDP growth. That already slowed down, and the combination of this supply side, they call this supply side inflation risk because it's due to higher world prices, especially in countries where net importer of oil, the countries that net that of course they have no choice but to import their oil requirements. So they're price takers. So it's supply side related inflation, and hopefully there won't be any disruption to prevent further exacerbating the higher prices. So
Mm.
uh yeah, but the thing is, you're right. As you mentioned it a while ago, that the overwhelming mandate of central bank is price
Mm.
stability, and they would do everything to also stabilize the exchange rate. Or at least it's there's some semblance of stability at familiar territory,
Mm.
and because we're not importing country, so because importation costs would also add to overall inflation.
Correct.
That's part of their job. It's like a template already among even conservation efforts to on energy,
Mm.
on say use just essential metals, savings on energy consumption by government agencies and also by the private sector, and so on and so forth. And of course, the shift to renewables, so to
Mm.
lessen the dependence on oil, and structurally on top of the saving measures. So yeah, these are templates already that have been there for quite some time. We just only revisit them
Well,
whenever there's this is like a similar to a typhoon or a storm.
well, there's a statement a few weeks back or a few months back that the BSP has exhausted all of its option when it comes to implementing interest rates, Sir Mike. So, how is this going to affect? Would there be any, would we expect another interest rate cut? Although the BSP has already exhausted its options to reduce the interest rates to address the situation now.
Well, at the very least, there's a chance for a rate pause for the meantime, because inflation is much more important. Well, of course, the economy is important as well. It's a delicate balancing act. The economy still needs all the support that it needs,
Mm.
especially in terms of monetary easing, the catch-up spending on the fiscal side of things. The economic team committed to, uh, well,
Mm.
1.4 trillion at least in catch-up spending starting this quarter, and hopefully that's already based on better governance standards. We have the national budget that was passed last January 5, also on better governance standards compared to the previous years. So hopefully that would help pump prime the economy on the fiscal side, and hopefully also help boost investments and it starts with boosting the
Mm.
confidence and sentiment of investors. But the bottom line there is that well, yeah, they may have
Okay.
prior to the war. Well, the markets have been doing quite well. The best in like 13 to 14 months is the latter part of 2024. Bond yields were at their best levels, at their lowest levels since then,
Yes.
even the stock market. But
Mm-mm.
everything, well, but the gains have been erased practically.
Okay.
So because
There,
of this
so there's a
external
reset.
development.
So there's a reset on the because of the situation. Is there a reset on the inflation rate targets?
Oh yes, because it's really hard to predict how long would this last. So, but definitely, if inflation, the base case estimate this year is around 3.7%. That has been the long-term trend averages also, and
Mm.
for it to normalize there at least 3 to 3.5%. So 3.7%, that's the base case. But because of the war, similar to our experience, the country experienced,
Mm.
say, close to 4 years ago during the Russia-Ukraine war, when oil and commodity prices spiked up, and but however it didn't really last long, but it led to higher inflation nonetheless for the world, no? So
Mm.
you need to add about 100 to 150 basis points to the inflation estimate, so that would be around 4.5 to 5.5%. And
Mm.
on a single month perspective, during the Russia-Ukraine war, the Philippine inflation spiked to as high as 8.7% by January of 2023. That was 11 months since the Russia-Ukraine war started, and given similar world prices. So that's why it's really not that far-fetched. Even the local authorities
Mm.
are also estimating that there's that possibility of a 7% inflation, because it's not really far-fetched,
Mm,
because when we would be back now to where diesel and gasoline prices were 4 years ago. So it won't be as surprising to see,
mm,
also given that it's a prime driver of inflation,
yes.
that for inflation again to revisit similar levels 4 years ago.
Right.
And that
Mm,
would require, of course, action by the local monetary authorities, because
yes.
inflation, you don't just leave inflation like that. They need
mm,
to curb it. It's nipping the problem at the bud, no?
yes, right.
Because if inflation is left alone, it would spiral higher and higher. So
Yes, that's right.
it's something. It's even in America. It's not just here. In America also,
Well,
it's even much worse.
that's the
It was
critical
less.
role.
Yes, it was less than
Mm,
2%
mm,
start of the Russia-Ukraine war,
yes.
February 2022.
Mm,
By June, it was 9%. That was the highest in 40 years. That's why they were forced to raise rates. But the thing is, back then, it was pandemic time. Interest rates came from record lows.
yes. Okay.
Fed was zero. BSP policy rate was at a record low of 2%. But
Mm,
now, at least we're coming from a higher interest rate levels.
right.
That's why any increment may not be as dramatic anymore,
Yeah.
because there's already some degree of tightening in recent
Yes.
years, so to
And
speak.
and
So,
and that's the role of the BSP to address those situations regardless of the events that affecting our economy. But I would like to ask this since I have you here on the line, Sir Mike. I heard there's a suggestion that the administration must explore new revenue sources because the excise tax is about to be reduced through a House bill, and this one is being certified as urgent by President Marcos Jr. And this bill will turn into law very soon. So that would mean revenue loss for the government. So, and one of the suggestion is to tax the rich. As an economist, on your perspective, what are your thoughts on that proposal on taxing the rich, so that we can return, or we can recoup on the losses that the government may incur?
well, actually, it's a whole of government approach. That proposal has been raised from time to time now, but it's
Mm,
not that popular. And given the lobby, also strong lobby, and of course, it's a delicate balancing act, in the sense that many countries around the world, they're trying to attract the rich, especially investors. There are even some countries that have minimum, if not no taxes, especially for investors, for the wealthy. Like,
mm,
countries like Singapore, countries like Dubai, they
mm.
try to attract the wealthiest people around the
Yes,
world.
that's right.
And that's why they have so much investments. It's like a tax haven for them, an investment haven for them, even for some of the expats who work there. So
Mm,
you know that has been discussed from time to time in
mm,
recent years. That has been the argument. And of course, it's not that popular. Also, if you are
yeah.
going to align with the global best practices, maybe some developing countries try to do it, but maybe for more developed countries, it may not. It may be the opposite. And there are
Mm,
other ways to really improve tax collection.
yeah.
Maybe like intensified tax collection
Mm,
based on existing tax laws, run after tax cheats, and of course,
mm,
improving the governance standards also
yeah.
for the revenue collecting agencies that
Uh,
has been revisited from time to time for the past 20 to 25 years.
mm,
So, well, of course, higher taxes, new taxes would be the last resort. So
yeah.
it's really on the efficiency side, and
Mm,
uh, you know, well, populist measures may sound, of course, being
mm,
popular with the general public, but from the business community and investors' point of view, they have a different perspective. So
mm,
it's a matter of really having that. Trying to also, well, we need to attract more investors.
yes,
So
that's right.
and would that be consistent, those policies?
Mm,
So this has been well thought time and well
Well,
thought of, and well calculated time and again.
yes.
And they have
And
already a ready answer for things like those.
yeah, and that's the government should do. Run after taxes, improve tax collection, as well as improving or improve tax system, so that the government will have more revenue collection, and also so that the money more money will be entered or cashed in into our national coffers. And a few more things before I let you go, Sir Mike, because there's news that ASEAN member states are stepping up coordination to mitigate the potential fallout from the Middle East conflict. That is through energy security cooperation. I'm sorry, energy cooperation. And what's your take on that energy cooperation among ASEAN members? Would that reduce the gas prices?
Well, maybe if there's tangible results on that, if indeed there would be, yeah, because that's already the constraint on geography there in the Middle East, the Strait of Hormuz, the oil supply. So
Mm,
there's that, also a need to further hedge oil supplies and energy supplies to other areas, especially nearby, if it's cheaper to do so. Like here, there are refineries here for finished products, a lot in Asia, in the Asia Pacific region, and also, uh, even crude oil, no, but say from nearby countries like Malaysia,
mm,
Brunei, and refineries major ASEAN countries. So, but realistically, since the Middle East has they have been the Middle East players, they have been invested for a long time. They have the economies of scale,
mm,
and they can sell lower, and at good grades at that, for
mm,
the oil that they sell
mm,
for
mm.
refinery. But it's not just here in the Philippines. We only have one refiner here, but the
Yeah.
refineries also in other parts of Asia, in North Asia, South Asia, and you know,
Okay. So would that
it affect.
yeah, so would that
Yeah,
translate
it
into
would
gas price reduction, Sir Mike?
yeah, of course, it would help to diversify, knowing these kinds of emergencies already, and
Mm,
uh, acknowledging that risk of
mm.
disruption through, because the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of the world's oil, and the
Yes.
larger part for oil going to Asia, including the Philippines. So at the same time, of course, it's really renewables. Yeah, the cooperation would help one.
Mm,
That's one. But of course, it's really lessening the dependence by
yeah.
further harnessing and developing the renewable power sources like wind,
Mm.
solar, and geothermal, hydro, and even trying to revisit the nuclear
Nuclear.
option. Since
Nuclear
the country
options.
has for a long time but not
Mm.
used because of some issues. So,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
we have Malapaya, some reserves.
Mm.
Malapaya has been there for at least 20 to 25 years for
Right.
the natural gas, and there's a new reserves found
Mm. Eh,
about a month ago. So, yeah, and of course the cooperation would indeed
mm.
help, but more importantly, on the
Well,
structural side.
all right. Okay. Lastly, Sir Mike, because we're running out of time. Okay. So those are the government should explore about the renewal. The government must look into renewable energy sources, as well as the Malampaya gas field that we've just discovered, or new sources of oil in that particular area. The Malampaya can be used to reduce our dependence on oil coming from Middle East. But how should the public prepare for this, Sir Mike?
Well, it's really, just like before. We need to really adjust. Well, what the country can control would be on the demand side. But of course, it affects our pattern of spending, the disposable income. We need to spend more on energy, on electricity eventually, and that
Mm-mm.
would reduce the disposable incomes of people. So it's really conservation that's number one. Try to only stick to essential travels, try to forgo other things, the non-essentials, and try to save
Mm.
if it's feasible and safe to walk as an alternative, or take bicycles,
Mm.
and And of course, we have seen that already. This is already templated. Like the various government agencies to save on electricity, to save on the transport and on transport costs and
Yes.
consumption, as well as the private sector. So it's a concerted effort for everyone because, the issue now, well, we have to be on our toes because the issue now is on the supply.
Yes.
How long would supplies last? Yeah, there could
Yes.
be supply from elsewhere around the world, but it could be more expensive. So that's we have to kind
And
of prepare for that
yeah.
because these things on geopolitics we have no control.
Yes,
We
that's
don't
right.
know when peace would again be back, when the oil supplies start to flow out of
And
the Middle East in a more normal fashion. So for the meantime, we have to, and of course, try as much as possible to take seriously the further reduction on the dependence on imported oil and petroleum by way of expediting the rollout of renewable energy
yes, that's right.
projects,
Uh,
especially those are our biggest
yes, that's
investments
right.
like offshore wind,
Yeah.
wind in the past 2 to 3 years. So it's a
Mm.
matter of
And
deploying, making, getting more supply of
yeah.
those. So we have to, and
And
of course, electric vehicles as well,
all right. And that's the
electric
government
and hybrid vehicles.
and the government must seriously consider that or those options and I believe Sir Mike saving would be the word of the year because of this crisis that we are dealing with or facing with this year, so that will be the top word for this year: save and saving. All right, and with that, thank you so much for joining us in the program, Mr. Michael Ricafort, the Chief Economist of the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, as we talk about the oil crisis and how does this affect Philippine economy. Thank you, Sir Mike, and we hope to have you again in the program.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Jerome, and to your viewers. Always nice to be back. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning. All right, and with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our technical team headed by Ms. Susan Aison. On Wirecast, we have Justine Ocias, and audio streaming, Mr. Leo Magpayo, and to our intern, Mr. Adrian Gregorio. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.